You know that gnawing question or sneaking suspicion that you've had in the back of your mind for a while? Or that vision that you just can't quite keep out of your consciousness? Or maybe a recurring dream that comes over and over? Or maybe just something that you keep thinking could be the case, but you don't really want to believe is true? This Sunday through the early part of next week's astrology is the kind that solidifies that you absolutely can trust your gut. If you're watching this video, you are meant to allow the truth that your body, mind, heart, and spirit is perceiving, even when the mind wants to argue otherwise. Hi, I'm Amy Rose White. I'm an integrative psychotherapist and astrologer, making videos on concrete tools for the major astrological transits. Normally I'd be wearing one of my sequin tops, but it's been a day and I happen to be wearing this. And the reality is you don't have to, not that I'm intentionally doing that because I love my collection of vintage sequins and it just gives me an excuse to wear them here, but this is a reminder that this is what a witch looks like. This is what someone who can trust their intuition looks like. They may be wearing a Hawaiian shirt and a gold chain. The ability to trust oneself does not require performative theatrics or a certain kind of outfit or clothing. It is really my experience that the people who have learned to trust themselves are simply just normal people like you and I, and they are you and I. So right now is an opportune time to expect, anticipate, and follow not just the breadcrumbs, but the sudden insights, confirmations, and inner knowing that are going to unfold through the weekend into the following week and really beyond, because these transits and the aspects they're making are part of Uranus's initial welcome mat into Gemini, with the ruler Mercury conjoining Uranus on Sunday. And Uranus is an archetype of awakening and liberation and sudden epiphanies. And Mercury is how we perceive in the mind, how we conceptualize, and how we articulate. And what happens so often is that we sense and know something, but the mind has a hard time finding the language. Uranus, now getting to be welcomed by the great god of that temple, Hermes, is a really special invitation to allow for that wisdom, aha, and newness in thinking, as well as deep intrapsychic trust to unfold. And the reason for that is right on the heels of that Mercury-Uranus conjunction. Mars moves into Taurus, the sign of the body, Mars being what initiates and drives us and motivates action in our charts and by transit, activating really the sensual connection which psychic gifts are always connected to. I know for me, although as I talked about in one of my recent videos, my own gifts don't include actually seeing spirits. They are a deep knowing in my body. And my body actually gives me very specific signals, and they've changed throughout, different phases of my life exactly what those are and how they manifest. But it's my body that translates that knowing and then gives me the next step and the what to do. On the same day that Mars moves into Taurus, and granted, Mars is in detriment in Taurus, but just at the end of the week into next weekend, it will make a sextile to the North Node, which helps out that debility to a degree. And of course, on the same day that Mars is going into Taurus, Venus then goes into the sign of Cancer, a very, very psychic sign. The deep, watery, compassionate energy of Cancer tends to feel, and of course, Venus wants to connect, but feel what other people are feeling, perhaps even before they do. And then on Tuesday, that same Mercury squares the North Node in Pisces, mystical waters, the highest love, compassion, vision, incredible empathy on the same day that Mercury trines Pluto. And when Mercury makes a trine to Pluto, basically the mind is empowered to trust what others cannot see, to trust claircognizance, to trust any of the other clairs that are coming online for you, because that Uranus energy is often the activating principle of psychic gifts when we combine transits like this that are happening all at the same time. So if, like me, you think of yourself as having one set of clairs predominantly, which most of us do, this could be a time where you start to see, sense, and feel new capacities come online. And I promise you, especially with that Mercury trine to Pluto, just coming off that conjunction to Uranus, this is a time where you could really trust that. If you spent a lifetime discounting yourself and your gifts, maybe you felt like you could trust yourself in this realm or with this situation, but not in another, This is a really tide turning energy, as Uranus now is going to be in Gemini for 7 years, around allowing all layers and levels of knowing to come through in new and novel ways that may surprise and delight you, or even be a little scary. Sometimes when our gifts come online, it's a little destabilizing, and we have to have a talk with spirit about the pace at which we can access and work with those skills and abilities, or simply ask for the strength to be able to respond to whatever is coming online, because we're really not in charge. Pluto transits, Uranus transits, they're really good at reminding us that we are not necessarily holding the wheel or in the driver's seat, so to speak. But in a good way, because in those moments we can learn to trust, we can learn to surrender, and we can learn to allow whatever is coming in is for our highest good, and hopefully for the good of others in terms of how we might serve. Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, that if something starts coming online to you, that you go tell everyone what you see next to them, or what you know about their past, or the sense that you have about their hidden motivations and intentions. That's been a blessing and a curse in my life. It makes me feel like a very critical person, because I can see some of those things that might be harder for other people to see. And it's mostly more shadow material. If you've been watching my channel, then you know that I have Moon, Mercury, Pluto conjunct on the descendant in Libra. So, psychic powers of perception can feel like a liability when you start seeing you see the darkness in all the corners. And that has to be offset by choosing to use the mind. Mercury conjunct Uranus, square in the North Node, Pisces, spirituality, forced action, remember a square, and trining Pluto, to be able to focus on the well-being that is dominant, to pick and choose how we want to work with spirit, how we want to engage with those gifts, but more importantly, to really deeply trust ourselves, not allow ourselves to be gaslit, not try to talk ourselves out of things. And that's a mental pattern that this Uranus-Mercury conjunction could very well help liberate us from. Kind of shakes up some of those old beliefs and stories we have about our intuition and trust. Now, Gemini is an air sign. It's all about the mind. So what comes online, just visually, what you might see in your mind, a new thought that you might have, a new idea, a new concept. It may even be for a business, because Mercury is about literally, the mercantile and the markets. So there might be sudden changes and fluctuations in beliefs, in what you were thinking and what you wanted to do and what you wanted to sell and what you wanted to create for your business, or what you wanted to offer, in really tangible ways, or thoughts and ideas, like a book that you've been wanting to write. Those things are very likely in a psychic way, in a download way, to be literally coming through you right now, loud and clear. So this is a time, Mars and Taurus, to write it down, make a plan, take some steps, build. That's what Taurus wants us to do. Create, make. That might be something very creative, squaring North Node in Pisces. That might be something that might have to do with creating art around trauma, Pluto. But it's much more likely to be something that you're creating and building that's an authentic expression of who you are, Uranus. And Uranus-Mercury conjunctions really favor authenticity, uniqueness, and taking risks by responding to those aha moments that are taking place right now. So your meditation going into the weekend and through the rest of next week is, where have I been second guessing myself, and where am I willing to trust myself more? Your mirror work for the transit is, I believe you. 3 most powerful words there are. I believe they're more powerful than I love you. Yes, I will stand by that. And your mantra for the transit is, I am my own oracle. Thank you so much for being here, for liking, hyping, subscribing. Thank you so much for sharing your journeys with me in the comments below. Check out these videos right here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.